People are beginning to join, so I suggest we get started. So a warm online welcome to room number 6, the good choice, because it is by far the best room on the platform, where we will be discussing the role of the social economy in the ecological transition and in the context of the European Green Deal. My name is John Paul Judson. I will be your host and moderator for this session, organized by Reuse, the international network championing the development of the circular economy through the active role of social enterprises in reuse, repair, and recycling. The Reuse network has been particularly active in the context of the Social Economy Summit, with a first workshop organized during the Roadmap to EU SES event, focusing on the resilience of social enterprises in times of crisis. There was also a second interactive workshop that took the shape of a conversation with Gorka Mediavilla from Traperos de Maús, Navarra, who provided a hands-on experience on the operational challenges of running a social enterprise. And on the policy level, Reuse has also recently written its position paper on the Social Economy Action Plan, and you will find a link to the paper in the chat, which is that blue box to the right of your screen. So we'll be together for 90 minutes, so feel free to use this chat to raise your comments and questions, as well as the Q&A function. I will be monitoring this, and if your question or comment is not raised in the discussion, please do not feel discouraged, as it is still very important for an online audience to hear what the other participants have to say, and not just the panelists, however expert they may be. So do please engage with us, and bear in mind that all the elements of this discussion will help to shape the upcoming Social Economy Action Plan. In this session, we will be exploring the links between the social and the circular economy, how both sectors are intimately linked, and how, despite the major contribution of social enterprises in, for instance, extending product lifespans or giving new life to materials or products considered to be waste, the role of social enterprises is nevertheless sometimes misunderstood, overlooked, or undervalued. To discuss this, I am delighted to be joined by 4 experts from the Reuse network and leading voices in the social economy. They will give you compelling examples of working at the crossroads between social inclusion and circular economy, and we will then have a panel discussion on the necessary policy frameworks and measures to further enhance the role of social enterprises in meeting ambitious environmental and climate targets. So let me introduce you to Carina Oltonen. She is president of Emmaus Europe, and she is joining us from the Åland Islands in Finland, the Swedish-speaking part of Finland. Matthias Nietzsch, he is managing director of Repanet and also president of Reuse. He is joining us from Vienna in Austria. Marina Fornacier, she is president of the social enterprise Insieme, and she is joining us from Vicenza in Italy. And Ivan Bozic, who is cooperative manager at the social cooperative Humana Nova, and he is joining us from Croatia. So welcome to the 4 of you. And to introduce and kick off this session, we asked each panelist to send us an image that for them represents this crossroads between the social economy and the circular economy. And so we will be showing these images, and I will ask each panelist to comment as to why they chose that image and what it represents for them. So let's fire away and show the audience the first image of the 4 and see which panelist reacts. So whose image is this?
Yeah, that's from me. Thank you. And this is an automat in a railway station with besides some drinks, beverages, and snacks, a small package with a mask, a face mask, the Corona face mask. And these masks were produced relatively quickly after the first lockdown or during the first lockdown by a network, an Austrian network of social enterprises, those who handle textiles or have sewing machines or people, and they very, very quickly reacted. And then where finally the network was able to make a contract with the Austrian railways, who authorized them to put this into this automat in every major railway station in Austria. And this shows for me that the social economy, if acting as a network, can very, very quickly react to any crisis and make the best out of it. And for me, that shows this resilience and this power to cope with crisis. And yeah, for me, that's a real fine symbol also for the cooperation with the rest of society.
Okay, so speed of deployment on par with a business, with a commercial venture. So okay, that's an interesting one. I would also be keen to see the chocolate bar to the left, but okay, we stick to the mask. Let's then see the second image and see who responds to that one.
That is my picture, and for me this is the pure essence of Emmaus. You can see these three happy guys. They are from Pamplona in Spain. They work together side by side, reusing the material that had been given to the Emmaus group, and hopefully they can make this out to a surplus and money that can be given to other solidarity. And when the evening come, these guys and I as well are very happy, and you feel good. You have done something that is not only good for you as a person, but also for the environment as well. So I think this is really what Emmaus is about. Working together, helping others, and taking care of the resources, the limited resources we have on this planet.
Yeah, there's definitely a feel-good factor in the picture. It exudes companionship, and I suppose what you're saying, yeah, what is feel-good for people is feel-good for the planet. So, okay, thank you. Yeah, that's an interesting one. We can then maybe have a look at the third image. It'll probably be between Ivan and Marina.
It's my turn. I chose this picture coming from a communication campaign of ours, and we like it because we are talking about life and how to make life longer, and we are talking about life of objects and the life of people and the life of people and the planet. And we also like that nobody knows this lady. She's a lady. She's an older lady. You don't know if she is a fragile lady or a super powerful lady. And we like to make this comparison between people, objects, and at the end, the planet. So we chose this one.
Okay, yeah, and that's really the strong link. I mean, this person will be. Would you say she is wearing something that has been prepared for reuse, let's say, or would she be typically working in the sector? Just out of curiosity.
You will never know it. That's the secret. But for sure, she is wearing clothes coming from our second-hand shops.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's an inspiring symbol. And then we move to the fourth image, probably moving to Ivan.
Finally, I choose this picture, which is now 7 years old. It remembers us for the tough times which we have in our development. This picture was taken from the first set of professional pictures which we take, like I said, 7 years ago, because we can compare how tough it was in the past comparing to today, which I can say it's something like highlight of our work in Humana Nova. This lady is a lady with intellectual problems. She is producing the industrial rags, and she is still 7 years after today with us. She is now recognizable with this picture, and I'm very proud that I'm here today.
Okay, so that's really close to your heart, this picture. You know very well this person, and it shows, yeah, the dedication of the workers and the fact that they've been there also for a long time. So, okay, well that sort of sets the scene on an inspirational level. We see that there are some strong links between the social economy, the circular economy, and the dedication of this sector to achieve important goals. I would like now to ask each speaker to go into a little bit more detail on some of the practical operational aspects of your work and how you're contributing to the circular economy. So I would like to first then give the floor to Karina to take us through a little bit Emmaus Europe's contribution to the circular economy. So Karina, please, over to you.
Thank you very much, and I would like to give this presentation. Thank you for inviting me to this special event. When it comes to social economy and the ecological transition, Emmaus has been the forerunner in this specific field for the last 70 years. Emmaus is not an ordinary charity organization. We want to underline that Emmaus is a non-religious and a non-party political movement. We are a grassroots-driven organization, and our keywords, I would say, is solidarity, sustainability, and a meaningful life. Next, please. The Emmaus movement was created in 1949 when people from different social and economic positions came together, and they were convinced that this union of differences would be an asset in the fight for a more fair world. And these first companions founded a unique solidarity movement. One of the founders was Abbé Pierre. He was a member of the parliament and a Catholic priest. And Abbé Pierre, as you can see on the picture, together with the first companions, became rag pickers, collecting paper scrap, bottles, and things that people no longer wanted, and they could sell them on. And the income was used to feed the companions and to build houses to homeless people in and around Paris. This was the start of the first Emmaus social enterprises, and today we still continue the work they started 70 years ago. Next, please. There are about 350 members, Emmaus communities, associations, and social enterprises in 20 countries in Europe today, and more than 20,000 people are involved in the Emmaus work. We are situated from the north in Finland, where I am today, down to the south of Italy, and from UK, where we have very many Emmaus groups, also to the eastern parts of Europe, like Georgia, Albania, and Latvia. Most of the groups are naturally in France. And we have an increase of groups with more than 20% during the last 10 years. And we continue to grow as people understand that Emmaus can offer a way of life that's not only saving the planet with reuse and recycling, the social impact is even bigger. The work we do gives people hope, a home, a social context, and by helping others, you help yourself. And we have seen this importance of being together during the pandemic, how important it is for people, for the well-being of people. And I am very impressed of how good the Emmaus communities and groups have managed to cope with the difficulties the last year. The next one. All the Emmaus groups share the same values, and we have all signed the same universal manifesto that we commit ourselves to follow. We live from what we earn, we work together, and we are fighting for social and environmental justice, for ethical and solidarity economy, and for the world in peace, giving everyone the right of living anywhere you want in the world. We are helping those who are suffering the most, and we are also trying to eliminate the causes that makes people suffer. It means that we also work to change policies on different levels, both on regional or national or EU level. So what do we do next? We collect stuff, furniture, textile, and anything we can sort, sell, and earn our living from. Often the work is done by hand, but there are also some groups that are running bigger recycling centers. We try to circulate as much as possible locally in our secondhand shops. That gives jobs to a lot of people, to volunteers, to companions, to paid staff, to trainees. And the staff that we cannot sell, but they're still good to use, we send to our partner groups in other parts of the world. And my group in Finland, for example, we are sending a few containers every year to Bosnia-Herzegovina, to Togo, and to Peru. And in that way, our partners are able to run daycare center for kids from poor families, run shelters for women and children, and they even run schools and do educational and vocational work in Togo, for example. The next one. But we also run cafes and waste food restaurants. We grow vegetables and have livestock. And as you can see on the picture, we prepare rugs for the car cleaning business. Many Emmaus communities also upcycle old furniture or clothes to give it a new life before it's sold on. And some groups sell their services to the municipalities. In Spain, for example, they hold lectures in schools on environmental and social issues. Next. And the surplus from the income generating activities we give away to our solidarity funds or to other groups in the world, or by helping families in difficulties in the local society, as the SOS families in France, for example. Last year, we have had a special COVID fund in cooperation with Emmaus International, and we collected money, and our partners in India, in Brazil, and in many other countries could then buy food and support the people in those countries with food aid. The pandemic is still very difficult. And the last slide I have about Emmaus, and it looks a little bit like Marina's, and it's what about the future? Today we have a constant discussion on how to reach out to the younger generations and to welcome younger people in our activities. And as you can see on the pictures, they are old ladies from my Emmaus groups. They have fun working together. But we want more people to fall in love with Emmaus and to continue the struggles we face when it's come to the climate crisis, the loss of biodiversity, and the constant fight for a sustainable world for all of us. In Emmaus, we are doing absolutely what we can, and even more than that. And we are really welcoming a greener European identity and a social economy that gives people a new start, a new life, and a reason to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. It's interesting to see this very strong local foundation, and at the same time a global outreach, and all that based on reuse, secondhand, extending lifespan of products. So that's an interesting one, and I'm sure we'll have some interesting comments on policies that will be useful to keep this type of activity growing. So thank you very much, Karina, for that presentation. I'd like to then go to Matthias to hear what you're doing in Austria with RePonet and some of the projects that you'd like to highlight there.
Yes, thank you. Now it's going to be a little bit more regional and local and not so much European. You can go to the next slide already. This is just a starting slide. And I would like to quickly introduce our Austrian network by the name of Repanet. It was in the beginning just a repair network, but now it's a reuse and repair network of mostly social enterprises. And we have 39 social economy and NGO member organizations right now. They create 1,500 jobs, and 1,100 of these jobs are for people with difficulties on the first labor market. And our network collected during 1 year 28,000 tons of materials, and 62% of which were reused domestically and also abroad, because we are also the biggest textile collecting network in Austria, and as you all know, the collected textiles are to a big extent are exported for reuse, so it's not only domestic reuse. And by this activity, we saved 5 to 6 million euros cost for municipalities instead of throwing things away to bulky waste or municipal waste, it's reused. So that makes up 5 to 6 million euros. I would like to have this money in our network, but the municipalities, of course, are still good partners, and we are negotiating with them to get at least a little portion of that. And we sell our material in 128 reuse shops all over Austria. You see all these dotted dots on the map, which is Austria, and the big one left is Vienna. So these are all the shops of our network, and we welcome 1.5 million customers in our shops, and all this saves CO2 equivalents of a small town of 12,000 inhabitants during 1 year. So this is quite something. It's not the whole CO2 equivalence of Austria, but it's at least a little bit. Next slide, please. We are active in various fields in the circular economy, and also not only in the social enterprise sector, but also in the civil society sector with the repair cafes and repair initiatives, where we are the coordinating platform in Austria for these. And also we have, just to demonstrate that we are not opposed to private profit-making enterprises, we have also 2 regional repair networks, which are networks of private repair service providers, usually very small businesses, in Vienna and in Graz, the 2 biggest cities of Austria. And at the left side, we are also active in the construction and demolition sector, where we are the first in Austria to implement reuse in the construction and demolition sector on a large scale. And our USP is, therefore, we combine environmental with social objectives, as you see here, and all this is somehow interconnected. This is why the circles are overlapping each other. Next slide, please. So what we are doing and what our role right now in the crisis, not only the COVID crisis, but also the climate crisis and the crisis, the raw material crisis, and all these multiple crises of the planet right now, is that we support the just transition. That is, in the media so much, just because if you want to transform an economy into a carbon neutral circular economy, there are always losers. There are always people losing their jobs because they work now in industries which are not sustainable anymore. And social economy is the best support tool to accompany this transition and to take up these vulnerable groups and accompany them to better chances in the future. So we provide also low threshold qualification for vulnerable target groups in the field of green jobs, which are required in the future circular economy. And we are also balancing out a market failure because normally reuse, although the best environmental option, is not always economically competitive. But if you use the synergy of social economy and market economy and put it together in a social enterprise, you can balance out that market failure and make reuse a competitive choice, an attractive choice, which also can serve other purposes like social integration or economically regional development. Next slide, please. So what I would like to show you now is two case studies or two examples of how we work. This is one of our regional reuse networks in one of the 9 Austrian provinces in Upper Austria. It's a province of 1.5 million inhabitants, and all the municipalities in Upper Austria are somehow connected in a network of municipalities that run together 181 municipal waste collection centers. And this association of municipalities entered into a cooperation with social enterprises, with the network of social enterprises of that province, of eight of these social enterprises, and established a reuse network where these social enterprises get the reusable items from these waste collection centers and redistribute that and sell these in 23 reuse shops in every district or city of that province. And in 2018, they collected 1,600 tons, not counting the textiles. They are separately counted. And more or less, this creates 240 jobs for vulnerable people in that sector and shows how municipalities and social economy share the same interest in the field of reuse and waste reduction, and can establish a project. And this is under the label Revital. This label is, you find this label in the shops, you find it on the products, you find it in the media, and you find it in the waste collection centers and in all these communication channels. So under this label, everyone in that province knows what is meant, and that this is a social reuse network and a social reuse collection or shop. Next slide. This example is from the textile collection. We in Austria, social economy actors are not the only ones collecting textiles. We have a market share of the textile collection in Austria of about 50%. The other 50% are private enterprises, for-profit enterprises. And our challenge was, since people could not distinguish between social enterprise containers and other containers, because the private enterprises are using the logos of some charity organizations to make it appear more social. So our challenge was to make the containers of our network members more visible, and we created a container finder, an online container finder, a platform where you can find the nearest container for textiles to collect, to donate your textiles to our network members in your neighborhood. So wherever you are, you can download this you can see that on your mobile phone and find the next textile container. And this is not only showing the next textile container, but also making the social background of the textile collection more visible to the public, to decision makers, to municipalities, which in the future should enter into more and better and more stable partnerships with our members. And so this is one of the strategic steps into that direction. And the future is that we will create an app out of this online platform, and open it up for other product groups and other services as well, and do a lot of campaigning on that, so to make the social reuse and social circular economy sector in Austria more visible. So that's it. Thank you. Last slide, the goodbye slide. Thank you very much, and hopefully this was of some interest for you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matthias. Maybe you might want to mute yourself because there's a bit of echo. Sorry for that. You'll have to unmute yourself later though, because you're staying, so it's not really a goodbye. But I picked up on this label. I'd definitely like to talk about consumers also later, the digital technology as well, interesting, and the stakeholder collaboration. So there's quite a lot to discuss for later. Thanks a lot for that. We'll then move to Italy, Marina. If you would like to also give us a couple of examples of what you're doing in Vicenza with Insieme.
Yes, here I go. So welcome to Insieme. This is our main communication campaign towards the citizens of our province, in which we try to include them in our inclusive and circular movement. We are a social enterprise working since 1979, working in circular economy since then. Up to now, we have two missions, the social one and the environmental one, in which our activities are reuse, preparation for reuse and recycle, and they involve disadvantaged people. Let's talk about environment. What we do is this in the orange levels. So we have activities and actions towards the prevention and the reuse, and then we are authorized for the preparation for reuse activities, and then we prepare for recycle what we collect, that is waste and non-waste. This is the model, just to be more clear, in which, as you can see, the orange is the social enterprise part. In between the waste and the non-waste world, with a local jobs opportunities, but also a great power to link the public goals to the citizens. So let's see into in more details what we do. We collect waste from municipal waste collection centers. We do clearing services, and then among all the materials that we collect, we focus on the materials preparable for reuse that go to the two plants that we have for preparation for reuse. The goods coming outside these plants go to 4 shops, 3 retail shops, 1 wholesale, and then we have an online channel, online marketplace. For sure, we downstream, but also with upstream. So this is our last project about upcycling, whose name is New is Over. And the specific focus of this project is to product new products only from the waste of the waste of the waste that we collect. So what should for real go to the landfills. Talking about inclusion, so the link to the social part of our job, we work with this approach, thinking that economic resources come from social resources and not vice versa. And that's why we are more or less 200 people working in our organization. 70 are members, and more than 100 are disadvantaged people in insertion programs, and then a few volunteers from local places, but also European volunteers. We always use this analysis made by Reuse about the job opportunities, green jobs opportunities that the reuse sector and the preparation for reuse sector ensure to the citizens. As you can see, reuse can create a lot of jobs, and it's for real because we see it every day. These are some figures from the 2019 year. Every day we work with 103 people, but the turnover during the year is 245 because we provide them a temporary work for not more than 40 months because our focus, our aim, our goal is to make them free to choose their work, possibly their green job outside a social cooperative. And they come from descending bodies, addiction services, mental health department, prisons, municipal social services, and communities, and so on. We every day try to be cultural, to be very political, both for the social and for the environmental aspects. And that's why we try to develop all the connections with all the stakeholders that we can have, starting from the local level and arriving to the European level, thanks to Reuse, thanks to the European Commission and the European projection. We are members of Reuse as single social enterprise, but we are also member of Rete 14 Luglio, that is a social enterprises network at the national level that is a member of Reuse too. The way we work is constantly looking for the partnerships with profit companies and partnerships with the public sector. The citizens are always in the middle of this triangle, but every day we try to keep the highest level of cooperation with all the social bodies. So from the private, the social private, and the public sector. For sure, for the public sector, we have to work through tenders, but hopefully we would like to develop more and more the co-projection with the public sector and the long-term partnerships. And then let's go to the citizens part. We have
maybe one or two more minutes max.
Yes, a lot of activities, a lot of events for the people, for our customers, but they are above all citizens. And so we organize a lot of events, and the more close to the waste activities, the more we like. So for example, we organize parties in the collection centers of waste. And then a lot of communication campaigns and events. Just a hint for you of them. This is the Italian version of the picture you saw before. And then last but not least, we really think about horizontal organizations, and we invest a lot in participatory organizations involving all the stakeholders that we can involve. And this is the last picture because social and environmental innovation is really expensive, but makes life longer and then happier. And that's why we thank to be here today, to be a speaker for you. And this is the end with some colleagues thanking you.
Thank you, Marina, for a very comprehensive overview of your activities. Also, excellent communication visuals, very appealing. So that's, I think that will probably inspire many people in the room. So thanks for sharing that. And we move now then to Croatia to hear from Ivan and Humana Nova. I know it's raised already some interest in the audience based on your picture. So please tell us a little bit about what you're doing inside Humana Nova.
Thank you, Ron Paul. Yes, Humana Nova is clearly the youngest organization presenting here, also coming from the youngest European state, Croatia, which don't have a lot of examples of social entrepreneurships or social economy companies. Humana Nova is one of the rare examples which has clear vision of what we want to achieve, which is not connected to some municipality funds, some projects, etc. Next slide, please. Humana Nova is, like I said, social enterprise, private social enterprise, non-profit social enterprise with public with legal status social cooperative, which three main goals in our business: people, planet, and profit. And we are celebrating this year 10 years of existing. First 10 years of existing, and our mission is encouraging the employment of people with disabilities mostly, and other marginalized groups of people through two main branches. The first branch is textile waste management model, textile collection, sorting, recycling, and reusing, and the other is production and selling of innovative textile products. We use some of collected textile as basic in creating the new products. Next slide, please. Today, Humana Nova has 39 workers, from which 33 are ladies, 6 only are men. 23 from this number are people with disabilities, and another 12 are from other marginalized groups of people, which are long-time unemployed people, lower level of education, national minorities, single mothers, etc. People with disabilities, most of them are people with intellectual problems, but also we have multiple sclerosis, people with lack of seeing, people with cerebral paralysis, which are deaf people. We have a lot of different disabilities in our group. And people are before profit, which is our also main mission. Since this year we have the new slogan that we tailor equality, tolerance, and opportunity for all of us. Next slide, please. So actually what we do, we collect textile in partnership with communal companies mostly. We have also direct donations to our center. This textile we sort what for use and what's not for use. As we don't have tradition of textile collection, we get still some of textile since Second World War, so we cannot be concurrent on the European market with these textiles. So we have innovative model of how we can use everything what we get. So everything what's not for use, that's almost 90%, we sort to cotton materials from which we make industrial rags, and the rest of it we send in one company, Regeneracija, which is 100 kilometers from us, which makes felt, which is material which is used for isolation in the car industries or road industry. And this felt is coming back also to Humana Nova, felt which is not serial packed, and also 8 working places are creating with personal packages, packing with vacuum for the Bauhaus from all over the Europe. In this way, we have everything what we can get or collect of this textile. We all can use or reuse or recycle somehow. So with proud, I can say that nothing goes to the landfills. Next slide, please. We have also a sewing center, big sewing center, where 20 ladies are sewing the new products. Like I said, one part of these products are made from the old and sorted textile, such as many different bags, aprons, sleepers, etc. Sleepers are most recognizable product from in Croatia, from Humanova, and we call it this bibike, from the lady who made the first pair, Biserka, our oldest lady, our oldest worker. But also in this sewing center, we also made the new products from the new materials, which must be certificated. Most of cotton which we use for making bags, cotton bags, we buy in a local company, which is 5 kilometers from us, and the other material we buy in Turkey and has to be certificated with global organic textile standard. From these cotton materials, we made many different t-shirts, polo shirts, hoodies, etc. But also we make flags, where we have also the local supplier 10 kilometers from us, and we made around 10,000 pieces every year, last 3 years, for the town of Zagreb, where we get the public order for companies which has more than 50% people with disabilities. Next slide, please. Some of data's not so impressive like Matthias present. We collect more than 2,000 tons of textile in the last 5 years. Like I said before, everything what we collect, we reuse or recycle somehow. The cooperation with utilities or communal companies is raising. In last month, raising a lot, which create us opportunities to develop or copy-paste our model into different places or municipalities in Croatia. Our customers are mostly business-to-business sector. We have more than 80 private companies which feeding us with jobs, not donations, which feeding us with their orders of our products, which is the healthiest way of also our growing. And our web shop business to customer model is slowly raising. We have also fresh website and fresh web shop launched 1 month ago, so you can check also what's new in Humana Nova. Our profit is 100% invested back into cooperative. With that, we create new working spaces. We also, in that way, invest into new machines or new technologies. Last year, we invest every profit in moving into new spaces. We rent 1,000 meters squares from the private owner last year, and we adapt into our needs. So finally, after 3 movings in last 6 years, we have a space where we can also plan more in detail our development. And these 1,000 meter squares are slowly too small for us, so we also rent another 200 meter squares of private space in new area in Varaždin. And I predicted that until end of this year we'll have also at least another rented space somewhere else in Croatia.
Maybe 1 more minute, Ivan.
Okay, and what's also our ladies, our workers are also owners of this cooperative. Every worker which is employed over 1 year has opportunity to be owner. We have 29 cooperative members. Next slide, please. And we create new values, as I said, but the most important new values are our workers, which has new value in their highly raised self-confidence. So in next slide, please. It's very huge impact on ecological and social problems in the local community. We cannot compare with most developed countries in European Union, but we are very proud to be some kind of train which has a lot of impact locally. And thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you, Ivan, for sharing this very local story in Croatia, inspiringly local. And just reflecting on these 4 presentations, I think what's really interesting here is that you're all very clear on your mission. You're all very clearly identifiable as social enterprises. But I would also say that you're also very clear on your business model to some extent, right? The product that you're producing and offering to the market, and that is a very ecologically conscious product that would really fit inside all these big policies that we hear about, the circular economy, European Green Deal. And I imagine that in this summit, a lot of the discussions will be focused rather on social policies. I would like that maybe a first reaction from all of you on rather the environmental policies. And do you see that your contribution as social enterprises is valued in this area of environmental policy? Do you feel that policymakers that are thinking about achieving ambitious environmental targets are considering your role in this sphere? Maybe if I can go to Karina first, a reaction on
that. Thank you. Well, the reaction we get from policymakers and so on is that we should consume more, and we of course want people to consume less but better, and we think that secondhand is better than to produce new things all the time. So of course there is a contradictory between the growth, or should we have a more degrowth approach to the whole thing, to be able also to save some of the resources of the planet. But as I see now locally, I think the authorities and politicians like the approach that we have, because we also help the society with housing and giving home to homeless people, and also getting extra value from that as well.
But would you say that this, let's call it, way of seeing the world has its place at the table when it comes to policy making on environmental issues, or do you see that this idea that we have to go with growth sort of excludes this whole sector from the negotiations?
Well, if you talk about Finland today, I would say it is a change now. The development is that the environmental influence is more important today than it used to be, for example, 10-15 years ago, or even, not to mention, 70 years ago when Abbé Pierre started his work.
Okay, and Matthias, I mean, both as president of Reuse and also in Austria, do you feel that you have a seat at this table on environmental policies? And you're allowed to unmute now, Matthias.
Okay, thanks. I always forget. It's very it's ambivalent. So we face a lot of now. As long as we are financed by the labor market authorities or the social budgets of the state. there is and we keep there, and we keep calm, and we don't disturb the economy too much. Everything is fine. But we are a little bit more ambitious. We want to not just take what is left over, but we want to change the economy to make it more circular. We have an ambition there, and we want to make the economy not only circular but also just and climate neutral. And so we are among a huge movement of NGOs, environmental NGOs, human rights NGOs, social NGOs, demanding political change. And when it comes to that, we have of course, from industry lobbyists, a lot of resistance. And just to give you one example, now we have our waste law is amended right now. It's right in the process of amending it. And one little piece of amendment is that the producers of electronic and electric appliances should in the future spend 5% of their income that they use for collecting and treatment of electric and electronic waste to the preparation for reuse, preferably to social reuse enterprises. So that is in the law now, should be in the future, and should be no problem for them. 5%, yeah, that's really nothing. And the next day when that came out, the industry and economy lobbyists cried out loud and said, why should we finance the social sector? The social sector should be financed by the social budget and not by the industry. And now we have to answer, we are financing you because we are doing the preparation for reuse. What is your legal obligation for free? And actually you should pay for that. So actually now that you are not paying for social integration, you are paying for a service that we provide for you. So that is not yet right understood, and we have a hard time fighting. We have a lot of support, but we have also a lot of resistance. So yeah, it's a struggle. It's not just a nice struggle.
Yeah, and maintaining you in the corner will not help with the development of social enterprise. Is that something that you share, Marina, in Italy? Do you feel that it's difficult to be valued, not just as a social enterprise, but as a contributor to the environmental objectives of, say, Italy?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. It's a struggle. I was thinking about how interesting is that we all, social enterprises, choose this kind of sector, the environmental one, because it's an approach to life, to the planet. And in this kind of approach, we treat people in the same way. And at least social enterprises born 40 years ago. And they have been, time after time, more and more marginalized, above all the environmental social enterprises, following the economic approach to consume and to waste. So the more we managed waste, the more the social enterprises have been marginalized, and they have been ridden like low labor organizations, low labor value organizations. So this waste was intended for the people working in the social enterprises and for the social enterprises too. And now that the waste is trendy, and maybe the right wave is coming, but talking about policies and decision makers, they have to understand who is their main and best partner. So they have to create great connections with social enterprises, take them away from the margin, and work with them to redesign the next 40 years. I think we should, all the social enterprises should think about 2080. So now we are maybe opening a lot of second-hand shops, but if we do our job well, in 10 years, 15 years, second-hand stuff will be less and less and less. And so what's next? So I think we should think about the next 40 years. And in the meanwhile, in this period, not lose the wave of the environmental trend.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the vision of a world without waste, that could in fact be a risk to some extent to social enterprise, or might force social enterprises to reinvent themselves. So that's an interesting one. And Ivan, as you're the youngest, it seems, in this social enterprise scene, can you maybe answer that question from Marina to say, I mean, at the end of the day, why is it so deep rooted, this social economy, circular economy? Why did you choose textile recycling? Did it come first, or was it rather the mission of Humana Nova that came first? Can you just reflect on that, and then the value of these kinds of companies in Croatia?
Yes, the textile was named when we found Humana Nova that we want to collect textile, because the situation in Croatia was 15 years ago in our county Međimurje, we start to collect textile or separate textile waste and waste, etc. In our houses. That was the practice the last 3 or 4 years in the whole Croatia, that we invest into building the big landfills, that we must separate the waste into houses, etc., etc., which is hard to believe, I think, from your perspective. In Međimurje County, nobody collect textile in that time, but we also have one aim. The textile industry was very strong 10 years ago, but then was collapsing, the textile industry, and a lot of textile workers was without a job, and we tried to connect somehow, creating the new jobs, collecting and sorting this textile. But we still struggle with this, taking this point of job to the to get enough money from this business. We are struggling still. On the other hand, we don't have no support from nobody. Our waste law is written that we invest into these landfills and that communal companies can buy the new trucks, containers, etc. And when I listen to you, I try to to have some, I don't know, vision. How can we jump this, not 40 years, at least 5 years in our heads, to get some new solutions, how and where. The thing is also that there are some like metal waste which has value, and the private companies are fighting for this piece of gold. On the other hand, we have some private companies. We issue invoices, big invoices, just to treat this waste, and then for the half of the price, just drive this waste to the landfills. This is the situations right now in Croatia. But on the other hand, in Međimurje County, we have made one strategic move finally, in cooperation with our county, we get into the strategy of Međimurje County with 2 projects, Working Integration Center and Reuse Center, which are connected, building people with disabilities, building capacity of people with disabilities or national minorities, learning them how to work, and through the Reuse Center, we can have one shop which is big shop of everything what can be placed on the market. So it's on the other hand tricky situation, on the other hand it's situation with opportunities. So I expect that some also our lobbying processes what we have in mind in the next period will have succeed. I have great partners from the Reuse network, and cross fingers, maybe we can do something.
But I mean, you're talking about, I mean, not just you, but there's this idea that these companies are marginalized to some extent from some of these environmental policies or other policies, and maybe some misperception on the fact that it's low value. At the same time, you're talking about pretty impressive figures when it comes to jobs and to the impact of these enterprises. Another misperception, but maybe I'm wrong. Would it be fair to say that these social enterprises are relatively low technology, and there might be a conception that actually for environmental objectives we need to invest in technology, and so you fall off the grid? Could I have a comment on this technology versus labor aspect in this debate? Maybe from Matthias first.
Yes, this is one of the crucial questions in policy making. When you talk about investments, usually policymakers talking about investments, usually they mean spending money for machines or for equipment or for factories or infrastructure. They never think. They always think about investment is money that you spend and then it works there and then it brings you interest rates. So that is investment. Nobody thinks about the idea of putting money into human beings, like into training, into healthcare and all these kind of things, and with the idea that something is coming back from there as well, which is worth more than money. It's freedom, it's peace, it's social justice, it's a good life for all, and these are values which have no place. And so if it comes to circular economy, then especially when we talk about textiles, everybody thinks that social enterprise, they collect textiles, they sort it, and they sell used textiles in the shops, and that's not very innovative, that's low tech, as you say. So that doesn't need any support, that doesn't need investment, and all the investment, circular economy investments of the European Union now run into recycling technologies for fiber recycling instead of supporting businesses who produce long-lasting textiles which can be collected and resold more than just one time by social enterprises or by anybody, to create labor, to create good dressed people and smiles, instead of return on investment. So that is a complete that's the core discussion of how to spend money.
Karina, please jump in on that.
Yes, thank you. It's very difficult sometimes for the small social enterprises or MOs, communities or groups, also to get a bank loan or to get support to make this investment, to be able to do a very good recycling work. But I have a good example from Poland. In Poland, one of the MOs groups in Lublin, they were the first association in Poland to obtain the social enterprise status already in January 2005. And in Poland, they also have this kind of different grants and loans. So this MOS group have been able to both invest and to build a pizzeria, or to also to build housing for the companions. So this varies a lot in Europe how we help the social enterprises. Recent research from the UK shows that a new community where you have a workplace, you have the people who live, homeless people gets off the street. It costs 1.7 million euro to build a house, a community house in UK, and it generates a social value of 11 million euros over a lifetime of 20 years. So I think this kind of investments we don't talk about. So I very much support Matthias in this discussion as well.
Yeah, and it also makes me think of how would you quantify the fact that your enterprises don't create any negative externalities for society and the environment? That's a little bit of an open one, but I would assume that there's an interest there as well. But we're maybe going into sort of a negative area too much. I mean, I also understand that there are some frameworks that support social enterprises, and I wonder, are there any good examples of solutions that countries have found to facilitate, whether it's access to funding, access to public procurement contracts, to facilitate access for social enterprises to perform their operations? There must also be some positive examples to be raised, as you just mentioned also, Karina. I don't know, in Italy, in Croatia, Matthias, whoever wants to jump in there. As you wish. Ivan.
I will go first here. As well, also good example also in public procurement in new law with this suing flags for town Zagreb. We see here opportunity for public procurement and raising the cooperation with communal companies, especially in the big towns. They can also announce the public procurement for the social companies. There is possibility, and we are now negotiating about that, and we are also close to succeed with the two companies or two towns to raise our collecting amounts. Also with this public procurement, these companies will pay Humana Nova for treat this textile, and like I said, I see here a big opportunity. About other funding, we had now closed 5 years deal with European Social Fund, and also as good European example of social entrepreneurship, I had to say that we didn't get any European Social Fund project in Croatia. Also last week we finally eject the last call because it was it was a very bad call, and we cannot improve our business with this call. Also, in last period, the cooperatives was not eligible appliers, so we also missed some of these projects. So this is the current situation in Croatia, but I also expect for the new period, which will last until 2025 or 7, I'm not sure, that we will have much success in getting some of these projects, which we want also to invest into copy pasting our model in next 7 years in whole Croatia.
Okay, thanks Ivan. Marina, would you have some a high-level example of a support mechanism in Italy that actually favors choosing a social enterprise over another option?
Yes, we have some. Talking about public procurement, not all around Italy, but in our region and in my province, above all, public procurements are reserved for social enterprises. Let's say they are quite advanced, talking about the social impact of social enterprises, but they save money on the environmental field. So there's no way to have both completely supported. And I was thinking about what Matthias told. We will always have a problem until when social enterprises will have more expertise, more strategy, more vision than a decision maker. And this is happening in Italy very often, that we find more comprehension of what we are saying about environmental and social stuff more than decision makers. So maybe talking about also technology and where to invest money, how to invest money, maybe the European Commission could invest in training for decision makers locally. And in some indirect way, it could be enhancement of awareness of policymakers, talking about both social and environmental. So, for example, going back to your question, for sure, we have tenders with social clauses, but environmentally speaking, they are quite old. And about projection, we usually look for Europe, not for Italy, because I think it's very important that Europe is talking also in the directive, in the waste directive, about the connection with social enterprises and this link about between social and environmental. So usually for projection, we go to Europe. And then locally, we try to focus on the environmental field when there is a lack on it with policymakers, or vice versa on the social when the lack is there.
Yeah, it comes back a little bit to what you were saying with the value of waste has increased with all these discussions around the circular economy, and to some extent your sector is a little bit more visible in that sense. And at the same time, there's this risk that if the waste reduction policies and the eco-design policies go their way, maybe you actually have less material to work with in theory. And that is also one of the comments in the chat box. But I see Matthias disagreeing, so maybe I comment on that, Matthias.
I think as soon as our businesses are not needed anymore, then we will have the perfect world. So actually, as long that's a good thing. So I don't see any danger in that. So if we have really long-lasting products, then we can our enterprises can more maybe qualify people with more repair, more service and maintenance activities instead of collecting and selling things. So I think that is not a threat to our sector. What I wanted to say is what we have to make clear to policymakers is if they spend €1 for an environmental impact, a certain impact, and then they spend another €1 for a certain social impact, they can have both impacts for only €1 at the same time if they spend that euro for a social economy, circular economy, combined enterprise like ours. And so this is something that we should make very clear. And the only reason we couldn't do that so far is that we don't have a very strong lobby. And why? Because the impact that we create and the return on investment is not another euro landing on somebody else's bank account. It's a benefit for the society, which actually cannot be measured in money, and this is why it's so difficult to convince policymakers to invest in this €1 with two impacts, because there is no return on investment on somebody's bank account. That's for me, that's it.
Karina, a comment on that?
I would just would like to say, why are we consuming so much? Because the amount of textiles and clothes has, increased immense the last 15, 20 years. So it's enormous tons of that we have to take care of. So I would like to start in the other end. Why do people consume that much? And would it be something that policymakers could do is to prohibit advertisement, because people are quite unhappy, and to kind of fill that empty hole in your heart, you go out and shop clothes, or you sit at home and buy things on the internet, and you will not become any happier than that. So I think the last year have perhaps made it easier for people to choose not to consume that much, and to be more aware of what we are actually buying.
That's an interesting one, and it leads me to the last area that I wanted to touch upon in this discussion, is precisely the consumer. Because I think we've talked about these political frameworks, and to some extent, maybe the European Union is not really equipped to deal with your issues, as it's largely based on the principle of the free market and growth. So maybe there's a challenge there inherently to your issues. But there's also the consumer's role. And I would like then a final comment from each of you on that role. Do you see the consumer as a potential driver for increasing the role of social enterprises? And Matthias mentioned this notion of the label in one of the regions in Austria. But maybe to go to you first, Ivan, because you're also on a business-to-business level. So I would just like a reflection on, the consumer, your customers. Will they possibly be driving your business, regardless of political frameworks?
It's a tough question and hard to predict, because if I turn a little bit, what's the current situation in Croatia? We are last who get into European Union. We are last and youngest country which get to capitalism, and our consuming of everything is really huge. We are surrounded with market centers in small cities. People are buying stuffs every day, too much, and not only textile. That's our habit, because we want to be also well dressed for the small amount of money, etc. But that also creates bigger amount of the waste. So
Yeah.
like I said before, we see this situation as opportunity, because on the other hand, as we are close to the Austria, Germany, we have in last 3 years a lot of young people which immigrate to another countries, working in better conditions, comparing to Croatians. And what's left? People which have not so many skills, mainly older people. So I see here opportunity to connect these two things, creating with also not only new label. We are in process of creating the new certificate as ISO standard or Global Organic takes something similar, I won't show my cards, all my cards, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, but I think that with industrial customers and consumers,
Yes.
we would get a little bit more conscious over time. There will be space. So thank you, Ivan, for sharing your perspective. You were a great panelist. Thanks for the time. Can we go to Marina? You've invested so much in communication, trying to appeal to consumers. Do you feel that they can be a driver for change?
Yes, for sure, they can be a driver. Sometimes we discuss on what is our goal to make them come here to our shops consciously or not consciously. Sometimes we focus on this, how we get some younger people, how we get the older people. In communication, you have to choose your way to communicate to different targets. And sometimes we choose not to try too much to convince people, but to make them used to second-hand. So, for example, if you use a fork in a hotel, it's a second-hand fork. But if you are going to buy it in a second-hand shop, it's disgusting, So sometimes we don't try to achieve this goal to make them, to make all conscious of what they are doing. So we use a simple communication campaign dedicated to young people to convince them to come here, without even knowing what they are doing. But at the end of the day, this approach doesn't satisfy us, because the real difference is to make them think and feel the taste in deciding what they are going to bring to their homes. So maybe to cover this hole, this emptiness that Karina was talking about, with the sense of what you are buying. So
that also links up to the cultural elements that you raised in your presentations. It comes with a cultural change.
Take a cup and think about how many hands touched this cup, and think, this is nice. I want to buy it because of this reason. Okay. It's to do, but let's try.
Thank you, Marina. So the change in the consumer will come with some efforts on creating some sort of cultural revolution, let's say. Thank you very much, Marina, for having taken the time. You were a great panelist, sharing your insights from Italy. Can I hear then from Karina, very, very short? Karina, on the consumer.
No, we cannot put the responsibility on the individuals. We need to put the responsibility on where it belongs, to the companies who import or to buy and produce cheap things made by poor people in Asia and other parts of the world. We need to put the responsibility on the European Union, and we as a consumer, we have to pay the price that somebody else is paying at the moment, the environment and low-paid workers in other parts of the world. Thank you.
Political framework first. Okay, thank you so much, Karina, for having shared your insights. And Matthias, do you believe in the consumer's role?
Yes and no. I think we should not try to change consumers' behavior, because consumers know very well what is good and what is not good. And I think what we are trying to, what our approach is, to win them as our allies and to make them good offers. And if they take up these good offers, like second-hand materials or donating things, then they make us stronger, and this will change politics. So this is how it goes. I think the consumers are not stupid. You just have to see them as your allies and offer them good opportunities or good chances to contribute.
Thank you very much, Matthias. And it bounces back on all the issues that you discussed around the partnerships that you're building, public sector, private sector, civil society. So thank you very much, Matthias, to have shared also your insights. Thank you to all of you. Thanks to the audience as well for having taken part. And I hand over to Julia for some concluding remarks. Julia from the Reuse Network.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Jean-Paul. So I'll be very brief, as I see we're running out of time. So on behalf of the Reuse Secretariat, I would sincerely like to thank to all the speakers for their valuable and very thought-provoking contributions. Also for the audience for being here with us today. And of course to you, Jean-Paul, also for your moderation and the creative touch towards the event's execution. And I'm very glad that today we had the chance to glimpse a bit into 4 different and unique examples from Reuse Network, really seeing how social enterprises and their networks constitute a spectrum and apply different organizational and operational structures in their work, also operate in a different context. However, all of them are united in the same mission of translating this link between social and circular economies on the ground in practice through reuse preparation for reuse and recycling, as well as enabling and empowering individuals and communities. So since our discussion is also a contribution to the upcoming Social Economy Action Plan, which the European Commission will present at the 3rd quarter of the year, I guess the main takeaway would be that we need to mainstream the social economy into circular economy and into other policies. And that social enterprises should be the key actors in the future economic model. So I hope that our recommendations of today and this event's recording will be on the YouTube channel of Reuse, will reach beyond the social economy community, but also to the policymakers. So once again, I would really like to thank to all the speakers and the audience. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, audience. Are we staying in the room, or do we have to leave, or what? What is the plan?
I mean, just wanted to say that you were really great. So,
are we going to drink something?
Would be lovely.
Yes.
Many thanks to everybody, and see you.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot for also sticking to time, especially at the beginning. I was impressed. You did very well. Oh, we're being pushed out.
We are pushed out.
Okay, that answers my question.
Bye.